So there are some voices out there that are saying, yes, a crash is coming, and boy, is it going to be bad. Check this out.
Everybody's now admitting we're going to have a housing correction, but they're saying it will be mild. When people, they don't say it's going to happen, then they finally admit, well, yes, but it'll be mild. Don't listen to these people, because all they do is follow the trend. When it's up, they say it'll hold up. When it's down, well, it'll be down a little. This is going to be the biggest crash in housing of our lifetime, and then we'll probably never see one again for decades. Housing does not crash as often as stocks, but these were two housing bubbles, rare in history, and the last one burst, and this one will burst the same.
So Harry Dent, a New York Times bestselling author, he believes biggest housing collapse of our lifetime?
Of our lifetime. And so that means it's going to be bigger than what we saw in the Great Recession, bigger in 2008. And so that sounds pretty dire. That sounds scary. That sounds like something, if I were thinking about buying a house, I'd be very, very nervous about, right?
So, but there's another side to this argument, because that's obviously, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Let's hear the other side.
Housing is not going down in value. Things go up or down in value based on simple supply-demand economics, and we have a shortage of housing, not an oversupply.
So Dave was pretty cut and dry. He said housing prices are not going down. It's supply and demand driven. Houses are going to continue to go up in value because that's where the market is right now.
Run DMC Dave. I mean, if you see anybody who's listening to the podcast, we love Dave, but he is wearing a full-on tracksuit in that clip. I haven't reached the stage that I can wear the Adidas tracksuit. That's actually a Pebble Beach.
That is a Pebble Beach tracksuit. It's really interesting, though, right? We have these loud voices on both sides. Some saying, okay, housing is absolutely going to crash. It's going to be significant. It's going to be awful. And others saying that housing is not going to go down in value. It's going to go up in value. Well, it seems like thus far, at least where we are in our present housing market, neither of those two have been absolutely right so far.
Well,
right?
It's very entertaining to have a very strong opinion on something. I think it's much easier to get on programming, news channels, to kind of trend on social media. But as we all know, the real world is actually much more complicated than taking an opinion on black versus white. It's there's a lot more nuances or facets to the discussion. We kind of want to, let's give them a state of the housing market.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what has happened in housing over the last few years. I mean, this is not incredibly surprising to anyone, but if you look at the rise in home values from 2015 all the way through 2022, it's been pretty remarkable. Dare I say astronomical. Just in the period from 2020 through 2022, a 45% increase in U.S. home prices. That's pretty unheard of when we think about the real estate market and how it generally tends to move from a price appreciation standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this is in direct correlation to the pandemic, the money supply, where, a lot of money was put into the economy. We're seeing that it created a ton of inflationary pressure. So it's 45%. That's a pretty big increase.
But that's not all that's changed. There's another thing that's happened, especially over the last 2 years. Mortgage payments for new purchases have actually doubled in the last 2 years. So what a mortgage would have been literally during the recession for that same house is now almost doubled in just 2 years' time.
It is kind of amazing looking at this chart and seeing that, you could have had a payment that was $1,500 a month that now is close to $3,000, because think about interest rates and the fact that now that we're fighting inflation, the Federal Reserve has been very aggressively raising interest rates. You go from mortgage rates that are sub 3% to now we broke 7% in the last few days. It's concerning. I mean, because it feels like you have a squeeze, especially if you're a first-time new home buyer. You're feeling it from a double whammy. You're seeing the supply chain plus the extra money cause prices to spike up. Now to fight inflation, we've got interest rates that are, to the moon. It's just, this is a tough situation to navigate.
And this thing that you're describing, right? This idea that housing prices have increased, but interest rates have also really gone up substantially has caused the affordability of housing to be in a very unique spot. Brian, I think you found this. I think you showed this to us a couple of weeks ago in show prep. Like, man, that's pretty remarkable when we look at that. from strictly an affordability standpoint, right now, housing does not look quite as good as it's looked in the past.
Yeah, we've. I thought it was interesting. I brought it up because I had already put this in the show notes, but then, and I say it funny because y'all were picking on me. Is it Chart R?
Oh, I guess it is Charter.
But they, like there's I get a daily chart from this, and I thought it was interesting. They also pulled this. So a lot of people are paying attention to the fact that we broke through the 100. Which is the indicator of where they match up the median income of the country, median home prices, and we are actually sub 100, which means the affordability. We are in territory we haven't seen in 40 plus years. That's kind of scary. I mean, to see all these things line up